I'm Des Cahill, and I'm very excited to be with you here today, hosting Mark Newman, as well as John Seek from Windstream Communications for a discussion on the future of CX in the communications industry. And let's start off by turning things over to John. John, tell us a little bit about Windstream and your role there.
Sure, Des, I'd be happy to. So Windstream is a communications and software company. We have consumer and small business services in about 18 states, in mostly smaller communities there, where we're providing 1G services through fiber, coax, and wireless services. For that service, we've got about 2,500 technicians in those communities, all doing about 2 million dispatches every year, of which I am the director of dispatch, so in charge of making sure that all 2 million of those dispatches go through without any issues.
So you're keeping a lot of customers happy and with streaming services and internet and all the things we need to keep going in our work and personal lives during the pandemic. That's great. Well, let's jump right into it. Customer experience delivery has been a challenge for the communications industry for quite a long time, although we have seen some improvement as of late. Mark, do you see a strong enough appetite among communications service providers to really rethink their approach to customer experience delivery? And why has it been so challenging for the industry to deliver on customer experience historically?
So I think the last 10, 12 months have focused operators' mind on digital experience, which is a good thing. I think they've focused consumer minds on the digital experience as well. I think if we look more broadly at customer experience and telco prioritization, there's a clear desire across the whole industry to improve on an ongoing basis. Are we seeing specifically now a rethink? I'm not so sure. I mean, what I observe is that there's different levels of aspiration, and there'll be some telcos that really want to be digital service providers and have an experience that matches or gets close to matching an Amazon or an Apple. There'll be others who are looking for more incremental improvement. And I think when you look at the drivers for improved customer experience, a lot of it will be around genuinely customer experience, less churn, but a lot of it's also around cost cutting as well. Now, is that changing? Well, I think as we move into a 5G era, there's a recognition that we have to change, because the richness and the complexity of the network-enabled services is going to mean that if we don't improve now, we're going to struggle to actually monetize those new services. So I think 5G as an umbrella for change, and the realization it's not just about the network, it's about the support systems, about experience, means that yes, I think there is a strong light shining on customer experience.
It's really the totality of the experience from end to end, not just the quality of the service, but the provisioning, the buying, the research, and the support, right?
Yeah. And I think the challenge we have in telco is the complexity and the legacy, and making it work all the way through from back end through to front end. And I think there's a recognition that addressing single parts of that value chain isn't really enough. You have to take a more holistic view to genuinely make strides forward.
Absolutely. So John, how is Windstream looking to improve NPS, Net Promoter Score, particularly through the field service aspects of customer experience delivery?
We absolutely are looking to improve our Net Promoter Scores. We're a company that historically had a Net Promoter Score in that realm of a communications provider. We really wanted to elevate our customer experience, to have an NPS score much closer to what you're talking about with with software and technology companies instead of a communications company. And so, one element of this that we undertook was a real top to bottom look at all of our customer communications. For us, a dispatch is not a net positive experience for a customer. And so we really start to look into why. There's a lot of issues with, needing that customer to be home for that dispatch, having someone unknown come into the house. It's not always going to be a good experience, but especially on the communication side, we are finding a lot of our biggest detractors really just had a failure of communication. We sent them different types of communication that didn't always match up. Some of it contradicted with each other. Sometimes we didn't send any communication at all. So, as part of this, we really partnered with Oracle to really streamline and improve that communication throughout the lifespan of the dispatch. So that's from the initial order being taken or ticket being placed all the way through to after that technician leaves, and really improve on those customer touch points and that communication all throughout that process.
John, I think we've all felt the pain of waiting for the field service technician to show up to address a particular problem. So I can totally appreciate the amount of work and the difference it can make to your Net Promoter Score if you can deliver that great field service experience to a customer. So appreciate that. So on slightly another topic here, communication service providers have a tremendous amount of customer data. And that customer data spans across both front office systems like marketing, sales, and service, and back office systems like financial, billing, order management. And then there's also data about the customer on your networks, right? So customer data, whether it's profile data, billing data, usage data, network data, communication service providers have a lot of that data. So John, what issues have arisen for Windstream when systems and data are disconnected, and how are you addressing that? How do you make sure that that field service technician is trained to solve the problem they're being sent to fix, that they have the right part? How do you make sure that a marketing message isn't being sent to a customer that's unhappy with their service outage or other issues like that?
So, I mentioned in some cases we had messages contradicting each other. During our audit, we found, no less than 4 different systems providing communications to customers. Those were being triggered off of different statuses and different host systems. So a customer could receive a message saying, just a reminder, your dispatch is for tomorrow. And then not 5 minutes before that, had already received a message saying, we're sorry, we're unable to install your service due to other issues. And so it became very confusing for the customer, really generated a lot of phone calls into our customer service centers, and just overall a very poor experience for them. So during this audit, we decided that we really needed to streamline all of our communications down to one platform. And so we went with a single platform, SMS, email, phone, gateway, and then started making sure that all of our messaging really aligned with that. And then also, as much as possible, place all of this messaging into OFS to be the trigger. So Oracle Field Service and the messaging steps within it are able to then make sure that we're not sending the types of messages that could contradict with each other. And then for those messages that we can't send through OFS, having that same or that single SMS gateway is really key to making sure that that it knows, kind of that final leg of all of those steps, that this customer has already received a message, and that this message could be an issue with contradicting that one. You also mentioned making sure that we're getting the right technician to that house the first time. One of the strengths of OFS is being able to assign work skills to those technicians, work skills, work zones, making sure that the technician has the right training and tools for that dispatch. And then also the work zones, making sure that the technician's in the right geographic area for that customer. And that's really helped us to really make sure that we have the right technician there the first time.
Right.
And really, it only makes for a great customer experience at that point. It also really helps us in terms of making sure that we're only doing a single dispatch per order per ticket instead of multiple ones, which can be quite a bit more costly.
Yeah, right. Which is, it's a win-win. You know, if that customer is waiting in a 4-hour window and they don't have their TV service and internet service, they want that technician to be able to fix it, and it's expensive to have a truck roll out to a customer, so it's a business savings. So that's great. And it sounds like a takeaway for anyone watching this webcast is the first step is in terms of your disconnected systems is doing an audit of all your communications, all your systems communicating to your customers, and then coordinating those systems. So
it was very eye-opening for us. We had departments, had communicated for years that didn't know about other departments that were doing communications. It was very, very helpful for us to do that initial audit.
incredible. So Mark, this on this theme of front office data and back office data and multiple systems, and there's lots of information about customer information available at a communication service provider to tell them about me and my situation and what I want to buy and what services I have. What are the opportunities for CSPs and what are the challenges for them to take advantage of this data that's across their business in these data silos?
Yeah, well, the opportunities are immense. I mean, there can't be many providers of services that have as much data as telcos have at their disposal, but the challenge is, how do you bring all that value together? So fantastic opportunity. If we're at the start of that journey and that score is 1 and the end of that journey is 10, where are we today? I've asked operators this question regularly, and they reckon we're probably about a 4 at the moment, so 4 out of 10.
Right.
Which is probably about fair. And again, you can be glass half full or glass half empty in that regard. So I think you referenced there that it's not just about CRM data. So clearly you need to get that bit right. So data that you have from billing, from call centers, from retail, clearly you need to get that bit right as well. But actually, you reference network data as well. And ultimately, what really makes you happy or unhappy with your telecoms operator is the quality of the network. But is that network data making its way in a real-time fashion to people or systems on the front end, the front office systems? And the answer is generally no. So this issue, which is that the customer knows when there's a problem, but the customer service agent doesn't, is a real problem. And it's taking us some time to work out how, as an industry, to ensure that data flows horizontally across the organization rather than just up from within a specific silo. And there's all sorts of challenges there around data governance. So do you have the same rules applying to how you collect, store, manipulate data across the organization? Probably not, because different divisions have addressed this in different ways at different times. Do you have a common data model? The issue of dirty data. Are data lakes becoming data swamps? So there's, the good news there is that there's a realization that we've got a long way to go. I think it's about business prioritization. If you don't have the main board of a telco screaming about this and saying it's a priority, it's probably not going to happen. I do know of one telco in Europe where the CFO has now been put in charge of data, which seems really bizarre in a way, but it's because when the CFO wants something done, people get it done. So you have to have it coming down from that senior level. So going back to where we are today, I think we're getting a bit better, but there's a hell of a long way to go, which I tend to see in a positive light, because if we think what we could become, it's actually quite exciting.
Mark, that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of data, let's talk about the Internet of Things. That is an area that's of growing focus for communication service providers. So John, this is something you deal with today. How are you looking at connected modems as a source of data for proactive dispatch and proactive diagnosis of customer issues?
So being a communications company, we've been in kind of the Internet of Things for quite a while. Pretty much all of our things are of the Internet. And so we've really leveraged a lot of connectivity with our modems, with our other network devices. One, just to make sure that we have a healthy network, that the customer is receiving the services that they're subscribing to. Also, in some cases, we're using this to really prevent that dispatch. There's no need to bring a technician into the home if it just happens to be an issue with their wireless signal between their device and the modem. We'd rather have the technicians working on issues that we can't correct over the phone or can't correct self-service with the customer.
So are there any tools that you're using to empower a customer to solve?
Absolutely. We're using a kind of a self or house-made portal. It's a MyWin portal that really empowers the customer to log into their device, see all the devices that are connected to it, do a lot of self-diagnostics, and perform a lot of functions that can help them improve that wireless signal, improve that modem performance, prioritize different devices. All of this is within that self-care portal that's available as a phone app or through a web browser.
Fantastic. Sounds like a great way to self-serve my own customer problems. Mark, so on Internet of Things and the rollout of 5G, where does this go in the next 2 to 3 years? We're talking about high bandwidth, available locally, directly available devices. Is this going to transform the communications industry, and what kind of impact will it have on other industries like education or medicine or entertainment?
Well, I think the answer is yes, it can, if we exploit the capabilities in the network. So when we think about the network today, particularly mobility, we deliver the best services we can, but we don't have SLAs. We don't price based on latency. We don't really utilize edge computing. And 5G brings such network richness that's going to be essential to meet the different requirements of different industries for 5G connectivity. If we then translate that back into customer experience, what we know is that the experience will need to be digital, clearly. You as an enterprise will be managing your IoT solution via your portal, where you want to regularly check up on the experience and the SLAs that are being delivered by the operator. So the enterprise will really expect the operator to up the game. And this does mean that gap I mentioned before between the network and the customer experience has to close, has to shut entirely.
Right.
So, we're investing, we look at the money that we're investing in networks for 5G. Are we investing enough in our customer experience systems to make sure that we actually genuinely leverage that opportunity? And I think when we look at 5G today is really just 4G plus. It's just faster broadband. But when we put the core network in the cloud, then it really becomes very rich in the network. So we need that sort of digital strategy running right through from network all the way through our customer experience systems.
Sounds like exciting times ahead for the industry.
Absolutely. Great opportunity for us.
So Mark, we heard Jason earlier talk about the TM Forum Open Digital Architecture, and Oracle is aligning our communication solutions with it, and we're playing a leadership role in defining its next generation. Where do you think the communication service provider community is in terms of adoption of open digital architecture, and why is it so important to the industry?
So I think the first thing to be said is that the TM Forum is a forum for collaboration. So this isn't something top down the TM Forum is trying to impose on the industry. It's emerged because operators, and there's some major tier ones, started to think about, what should the technology architecture be for next generation for 5G, and ODA it's a blueprint for a future technology architecture, and the work in collaboration has focused on some areas before others, and those operators who are bringing the blueprint to life are making real progress in that. And we're at the stage now where we have great support from many tier ones, and that will necessarily cascade down into tier twos and into tier threes. I think we shouldn't undertake this lightly. We're talking about essentially bringing cloud native across the whole IT stack, and eventually the network stack as well. And it's easy to do that in certain parts of the business and others. Interestingly, the starting point is going to be around those front-end customer-facing systems, because that's where the power of digital really comes through. So I think, my role as an analyst, I kind of sit half in and half out, but I observe that there's half in and half out of TM Forum. I mean by that, my observation is that this is absolutely where the industry knows it has to go. It's a question of actually committing to it and making those brave decisions, while accepting it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a 2-3 year program to ensure that we catch that 5G wave.
Well, it sounds like there's tremendous opportunity in this transformation to 5G and the utilization of IoT. And it sounds like open digital architecture can be a key to unlocking that through providing an open, phased, risk managed transformation capability to get to that destination.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the time we have today. So I want to thank John and I want to thank Mark for their insights. It's been a great panel. Thank you to both of you gentlemen.